Hi, welcome to After Hours. My name is Don Walchuk, and with me today is Norm Siefkin from Chilliwack Sumas, David Malmo Levine of the Vancouver East, and John Gordon of Vancouver Kensington Marijuana Party. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
I guess where I want to start is tell us a little bit about the history of the Marijuana Party and how you got started. I know a lot of people out there look at the Marijuana Party as the Rhinoceros Party as something of a joke, and I just want you to explain that a little bit.
That's a great question, and we're very definitely not a joke like the Rhinoceros Party. We started off as the Federal Marijuana Party, which was essentially a one-issue party representing the marijuana legalization and the medical marijuana community. But for this provincial marijuana party, we have expanded. Excuse me. A lot of people during the provincial race, they said, we totally agree with you on your marijuana views, right, but what else do you stand for? And that's why this time, we rolled out this recent ad in the Vancouver province outlining our new platform called Choices, Options, and Tolerance. And if I may, I'd like to review some of the highlights of what we're offering the voters in BC this year.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Obviously, marijuana remains our first issue, and we plan to attack that by removing all provincial funding for the enforcement of marijuana laws. We also have a long list of other issues not related to marijuana. We'd like to see a viable ballot initiative system in BC, and that's another promise we make. Just like Alaska, Oregon, Washington, what have you, they can put questions, ordinary citizens can put questions on the ballot that people will vote on, things like clear-cutting policies, grizzly hunting, policies like that, that we'll be able to put before the voters and let them actually participate and make these decisions. We're also pushing for a school voucher system to allow poor families more opportunities to send their children to private schools. We plan to end street prostitution or severely limit it by licensing legalized, regulated brothels. That'll keep the kids out of it and eliminate the health aspects by providing regular testings for the prostitutes. We're going to strongly oppose U.S. police and military presence in British Columbia. Right now, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of so-called advisors from the DEA and American law enforcement working in British Columbia, actually flying on helicopters, pointing out which grow houses to bust and such. And we're going to bring that to an end. We also plan to bring in restorative justice and an emphasis on victims' rights. Regarding the firearms registration, we will not prosecute charges for non-registration of firearms. We will acknowledge the First Nations right to self-determination. We also promise no new taxes. And there's quite a long platform that we're offering, which, again, goes way beyond the marijuana issue, but those are some of the highlights of it.
Okay. When we talk about legalization, what does that mean? Does that mean that there will be a full marijuana industry the same way that cigarettes are manufactured?
It just means that it'll be legal, but it's up to us to decide what it means. Could be any type of distribution system. There could be a government distribution system, like a liquor stores. There could be, what I prefer to see would be something a little less tightly regulated, like they have in Holland, where private individuals can sell cannabis to other individuals. I don't see any problem with that.
Right.
But it's basically, legalization just means it's legal, it's normal, it's within the community, and it's up to everyone to decide what that entails.
Yeah,
so
in Holland there's like 100,000 homegrown operations where people grow in their own home and then they sell it through a cafe, and the cafes are like neighborhood pubs. And I think that if people were allowed to grow in their own homes and be able to tell their landlords about it and maybe have insurance for it, they wouldn't have to worry about break-ins because the neighbors would be able to keep watch, and just like you do when you have any other valuables in your home. And I think that if marijuana was made legal, people would be able to share it with, just like when you grow tomatoes at home, you can share them with your family and friends. But if you want to sell tomatoes in a in the store, then they have to be licensed and they have to be inspected.
Well, large grow-ops, right?
So I think if there'd be the pharmacies and maybe the health food stores or the cafes that would be able to sell marijuana, but that marijuana would be inspected. Whereas if you want to share
Certified organic,
your
maybe.
your homegrown marijuana with your family and friends, then that wouldn't be a problem.
If I can add one thing there, you're talking about the homegrown, and we're very definitely advocating that people grow their own marijuana at
Right.
home, and that they not have to do so in fear of harassment or arrest. And right now we allow an adult to make all the beer they want and all the wine they want, so why should they be arrested if they prefer to grow marijuana?
That's right. Do you think there should be any other limitations, such as age limitations, or?
Well, this is the most contentious issue. I think I came up with a compromise at the Harm Reduction Club when I sold cannabis
Right.
out in the open for 5 months. On the one hand, parents are afraid of losing control of their children and raising them or having them raised differently than they want to be raised. On the other hand, cannabis is safer than caffeine. So what is the message we want to send? Do we want to say this cannabis stuff, this herb stuff is just like alcohol and tobacco, a very, very dangerous drug? Or do we want to make it more relatively less regulated than those other drugs and teach by example and also protect our children from the black market? So keeping all these things in mind, why not just have a parental permission policy? That would satisfy both groups of people. On the one hand, you have parents who do want to maintain control. On the other hand, you want to protect kids from the black market. That's a way to do it.
The problem is when you lie to kids in something like the DARE program, then about marijuana, then they're going to start to think that you're telling them lies about cocaine and heroin and the other hard drugs. And if they have to go out into a market where they're buying off the crack dealers or whatever like that, then they're going to get into more trouble than if their parents can grow it at home, and they can try just like you would try a sip of wine when you're at dinner, you know, when you're a little kid. I think that if it's done with the proper set and setting, and of course, if a child was sick, say they had some, there's children that have cancer and stuff like that, I don't think that I'd want to say that this child could not have access to the medicine that they need.
Do you think youth are responsible enough to put limits on themselves, to get their homework done, to work that part-time job?
If it's a matter of permission, then they have to earn permission. And if getting straight A's is the way they get to keep their access to cannabis, why wouldn't they do that and mow the lawn and all that sort of thing? I think that children are as responsible as we allow them to be. And right now, we don't trust them at all. We don't teach them any of the truths around any drug, cannabis or any of the other drugs, caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, cocaine, heroin. We don't tell them the truth about any of these drugs. And as a result, they misuse them.